The big topics in Africa today, the continent, is what's known as the demographic dividend. And the demographic dividend is a shift in age patterns within the population. Africa is one of the fastest growing continents in the world. There's about 1 billion or so people in Africa today. By 2050, there are expected to be about 2 billion people. By the end of the century, there are expected to be about 4 billion people. That means that today there are 3 million people coming into the labour market every single year. So that's either a benefit or it's a curse, depending on how you view it. If you're able to put 3 million people to productive work, that's absolutely fantastic. If you're not able to put 3 million people to productive work, that's a crisis. And this is a graph for Ethiopia. If you look at it, what it's showing is the proportion of people at each individual age band within the population. And today in 2010, you've got a largely sort of triangular population where you've got a relatively modest number of people in middle age who are earning, and they're having to support a very large number of dependencies, basically young children. But roll that forward 20 years, and what we see is that many of those young people are bubbling up into the labour market. And now you've got a much larger group of people who are able to earn, who are then supporting a much smaller number of people who are then dependencies. So there is the potential for the African continent to get a real boost from the demographic dividend. But the question is, where do those jobs come from? Are we going to see Africa becoming the next big centre for software, or the next big centre for textiles, or whatever it may be? That's a very unclear question. We had huge migration of labour from the West into Asia over the last 50 years. But with the advance of automation and artificial intelligence, it's not obvious that we're going to have the same migration of labour from Asia into, for instance, Africa. So many of those jobs actually need to be generated locally. They need to be driven by a local economy. And one of the things that Africa has in abundance is agricultural land. In fact, 2/3 of the population of Africa work in rural areas. So how about if we can use this technology, use this energy, and use access to the digital world to enable people to be entrepreneurial, to enable people to build businesses within their communities, to increase their productivity of their farms, to be able to offer services within that community, to do digital payments, to do e-health, to do e-education. That's exactly the promise that distributed energy potentially can bring.